Ladies and gentlemen, do you smell the turkey? Do you smell the stuffing? Do you smell the victories for your fantasy team this week?
I do.
Guys, thank you for tuning in to this holiday edition of the Run the Gauntlet Fantasy Football Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff with DraftKings. We have yet to do a daily fantasy episode, but guys, this is it. We have some start sits for you, and we're going to pick a couple games. So I hope you enjoy the show, and best of luck to you this week in fantasy football. Oh, baby! Happy Thanksgiving to all of our followers. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. First and foremost, I want to wish you, your family, your friends, your spouses, your significant others, I want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving.
Jimmy, you didn't even wish me a happy Thanksgiving.
Justin, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, dude.
Did you not?
Guys, we also, for the first time on the podcast, would like to welcome our daily fantasy expert,
Word.
John Revere.
Special
Awesome.
guest. Woo.
Special guest. This man is a member of the Run the Gauntlet team, folks. We haven't heard him much because the man works a lot of times helping his mother out,
Yes.
doing the right thing.
Yes.
But he is here with us tonight to celebrate this special holiday.
And
I
help
am
his
here.
mom win a fantasy league.
She's 8-3, so you know.
And let's just start this off the right way. John, you have been sending us some of your DraftKings lineups. And I'm
I
not going to
have.
lie to you, being a college student, I just have not had the money to do DraftKings and normal fantasy. This week's my first go at it, but hopefully
Okay.
I'll fare better in this than I've been faring in normal fantasy because obviously it's easier when you can just play the exact matchup and player you want. So, without further ado, I
Yes.
think we should get into the quarterbacks. This is going to be starting from the Thursday night game. The game tonight is the Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. That's beautiful fantasy football every time. That is included in the DraftKings, whatever you would call it.
Dimension. That's what I like to call it. It's going to be a shootout. That game is going to be at least 40-40. I would like to say, hear me out, I would like to say that most of it's going to be passing touchdowns, not so much rushing. Even though the Saints have Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, I think that the majority of the points are definitely going towards Matt Ryan for this.
I love
upcoming
Matt
game.
Ryan. At 6,100, you might have the best quarterback of the week. His career versus the Saints is incredible. He's played 20 games versus the Saints, so this isn't just a small sample size. He's played the Saints more than every other team.
And this is going to be the 100th time that these teams are meeting up in the season. Little did you know.
Really, of all time, this is their 100th meeting.
This is going to be the Falcons and the Saints 100th meeting since their inception.
Wow, that's remarkable.
20 games, he averages right around 300 yards per game against the Saints. He's actually pretty much, as a career player, better against the Saints than he is any other team that he versus.
And this guy might be the GOAT.
And he's versing Drew Brees. He's going to have to score. The Falcons are fighting for their playoff lives at 6,100 because we're talking about DraftKings.
Yes.
This is terminology I'm not normally using, money and stuff like that. I think you gotta with Matt Ryan if you could find a way. I mean,
for people that play DFS, DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever they might want to play on, the salary cap is really important. So looking at both of these guys coming in, Drew Brees is going to be the number one overall salary pick for a QB, coming in at 6,700. Matt Ryan's only 6,100. You could take that $600, put it towards a better defense, potentially a better flex, depending on how you budget all of your other picks. So,
You were saying that you expect this game to be very pass-heavy and a lot of touchdowns from Matt Ryan.
yeah, each of them, both these QBs might throw for, I would say, 350 to 400 yards.
it's always
Where does Tevin Coleman fit into this?
Tevin
He
Coleman, let me tell you, I don't think he's going to do anything. I think
Really?
I like making weird predictions, and so far this year, it has worked out for me.
well that
If
Tevin
anything-
Coleman, yeah.
Ito Smith. He's almost $2,000 less as budget, and I think that this is going to be the week where he blows up.
Well, I think any running back on the Falcons, due to the game flow of the situation, unless they break off a run, which you can never predict when that happens, quite frankly. An 80-yard run happens, an 80-yard run happens. But I think they're going to have to it's true. They're going
It's
to
very true.
do it through the air. Tevin Coleman's a capable receiver, so, I mean, there's always the room for that. I'm just not sure he's going to get the carries in this game to where you'd want to trust him, but, I mean, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for scoring in this game, I think.
I really like in this game particularly Austin Hooper. When push comes to shove, a lot of guys in major primetime divisional games, teams will save certain things that they don't want to put it on film until it matters towards the end of the season. You got to think the NFL is a very competitive league. The NFL has a lot of smart defensive minds. Austin Hooper is no secret that he's been very effective this year, but that doesn't mean we've seen the entire Dan Quinn playbook and how they're going to utilize this man. We know Julio Jones is not going to be the guy in the red zone. Like, let's just throw that out the window. He is there to be a distraction to set up other players. Like, I don't think there's any disagreement there.
No, not at all.
And then, obviously, you have Tevin Coleman coming out of the backfields, but when you're in the red zone, everyone knows you're running the football. So the Falcons love to do play action in the red zone. I feel like every time when they're inside the 5-yard line, they're doing play action, rolling out, and Matt Ryan's throwing with 4 tight ends on the field.
Yeah.
like we've all seen that set where they line up at the 4-yard line and they're just play action, and they're filled with tight ends and Julio Jones.
And it works.
Yeah.
They send Julio off to the left, everyone else goes to the right.
This is why I think Austin Hooper has a really good chance to be a value play this week.
Well, Austin Hooper comes in at a salary of $4,200, so he's right above average of your normal tight end. The highest salary being Zach Ertz at $64. And
that's a good price. 42 is a good price.
Yeah, very good. The lowest tight end end up being $2,000.
If we're going to stick to that game, especially because you talked about Julio Jones being a distraction, I think it's important to recognize at $5,400 on DraftKings, Calvin Ridley. This is his night. This is Calvin Ridley's night. The Saints are getting torched on the perimeter this year. That's where Calvin Ridley does his damage. It's where all of his touchdowns have come from. I'm expecting a touchdown in this game from Calvin Ridley. You're going to get that touchdown of 30-plus yards and anything that comes with it. At 54, I think it's a beautiful thing. Really high upside for Ridley this week in that game. I love it.
Yeah, and he's been averaging around 14 points every single week that he's played, with the exception of the first week where he didn't get anything. So if you take that into consideration, I would assume.
And as a rookie, I'll give him the first. Game.
He has hit or miss weeks, but what you notice with Calvin Ridley and his schedule is that he takes advantage of the matchups he's supposed to take advantage of. So when he versus the Redskins, along with the Saints, are one of the worst teams against the perimeter receiver, and he had 5 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown in that game. And I picked him for that as well, so I'm going to stick with that because the Saints are just, they've had this hot stretch the past 2 weeks defensively, right. But I think it's a lot through the offensive dominance that teams are just getting demoralized. Atlanta's played this team. They've been there, done that. They've seen the Saints.
Are they not at home?
The Saints are home. The Saints are home. That's going to be the problem for the Falcons. But the Falcons are fighting for their playoff lives. If they lose this, they're 4-7, and
that's pretty much
the
it.
NFC. That's basically an L.
That's basically it. They still might not make it if they win. So this is a huge game. I've seen the Falcons show up to this game a trillion times, and Matt Ryan always comes to play. So I'm loving that game for fantasy.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you guys, the viewers of our show, and you guys as well. Recently, in the past couple of weeks, I don't know if you saw the video on the Facebook, we formed a DraftKings tournament. So we want to give you the opportunity to beat the experts. We want to give you the opportunity to play with the Run the Gauntlet crew. And we want to give you the opportunity to test your merit in fantasy football against us 3. Now, guys, we might have the podcast, and we might try and help you guys out as much as we can. But let me tell you something. We are not perfect. Playing against us and improving ourselves is the best way to get better. Because you're playing with guys every week that genuinely care about your success in fantasy football. So we're going to go all out trying to beat your ass. And if you're not up to the occasion, you're just going to be donating to the Run the Gauntlet fund, bro. Like,
hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the next thing. But guys, listen. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're trying to build a community around this thing. Please join up this league and make yourselves better as well as make us better. We'll see what we'll see what you do. We will look at your lineups. We'll see your trends. We'll be able to significantly help you out individually. But we're gonna make a long story short. There's gonna be lots of discussions on that on the Facebook. But to make a really, really long story short, once again, I know I repeated myself, but bear with me. Every Tuesday or every Wednesday, I'm gonna post about this tournament. Right now, it's a really tight-knit group of friends and family. And we're going to make this happen. We're going to build a community, and hopefully everyone's going to make a lot of money. Hopefully everyone's going to have the opportunity to make some money. Hopefully everyone's...
This is a Ponzi scheme or a...
No, it's not. No,
I know. Yeah. It's just not everyone can make money if I'm winning all the time.
Okay, buddy. So you're taking the first L.
All right, so every Tuesday or Wednesday, we're going to post every single week, whatever tournament we're hosting. It's going to be probably around a $2 to $5 buy-in, so that way nobody's putting too much money into it.
Yeah.
And... you can only add so much to the Run the Gauntlet fund at that point because Justin's going to be winning every week. You mean Jimmy's going to be winning?
You're the only one that finds this funny. It's incredible.
we're
I'm
gonna
a
do
realist, Justin. I'm a realist.
we're gonna do mix-ups. Like every week is gonna be different. So we might do a Thursday only game. We might do a Sunday game, Monday game. We might do all the games, captain's drafts, tiers. Who knows? We're gonna keep mixing it up.
All right, so we've talked about that Saints New Orleans game. Obviously, the league's going forward. We have some good stuff developing there. How about we talk about the rest of what we were looking at this week? DraftKings, just some guys that you were liking the value, stuff like that. Outside of the Thursday game, I can't even think of the word. The most common DraftKings format this week will be Thursday through Monday games, but they don't have that for the early Thanksgiving games. They have that from the night game, the Saints and the Falcons, through Sunday and Monday.
Mhm.
So that's going to be a lot of what we're discussing. We're going to leave out the first two games.
That's fine by me. So basically what I like to do is every time that I go to make my lineups, I like to make myself basically a spreadsheet of people I think that are going to have good weeks, people I think that are going to have bad weeks, some budget picks. So generally, I post this every week on Run the Gauntlet, and it's going to be the entire spreadsheet. I have every position, people on bye. I'm going to put my own lineups on here. Granted, they're not going to be finalized, but I would say
Usually, just to build on that, usually about at 12:50 on the Sunday games, I post my final lineup. I really don't try to lie to you guys. I really try and be as transparent as possible, and I can speak for all of us when I say we all try and do the same thing. But guys, listen, if we're posting a lineup 2 days before the game, things change.
people
It
get
is-
injured, personal things have come up.
You just, sometimes you're feeling it in one moment, not the next, because it's
always
it's a scary thing sometimes.
always
DraftKings.
review your drafts before the games go live, just to make sure that that person is playing. That
The weather isn't bad. There's not 40 miles an hour winds playing against your quarterback.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But
So-
you were saying about the budget picks.
okay, so I like to make one budget pick and my one stud. So this week, my stud is going to be Phillip Rivers for 5,800 against the Cardinals. I believe it is a Cardinals home game. No, I'm sorry, it is a Chargers home game. And my budget pick for this week is going to be the official starter for the Bears, Chase Daniel, for 4,400 against the Lions.
Really?
He is a starting quarterback.
Yes.
Is Darius Slay playing?
I am not sure about that fact, actually.
Because that was my biggest thing with Chase Daniel. Like, the Lions' defense has been handicapped for weeks now. And if they're still at a disadvantage like that, Chase Daniel, man, he got to work under Sean Payton and Drew Brees for years. There might be some serious upside, even if it's just for 1 week.
So who do you guys think would be your stud QB for this week if you were either streaming a QB in your league or you were going for DraftKings?
Okay, I think overall mine is Matt Ryan, but I would challenge anybody to go back into Kirk Cousins' career and show me a string of bad games, a string of bad statistical games.
Okay.
I challenge you. They don't happen. He's versing Green Bay this week. He's at 5,500, cost just as much as Baker Mayfield, who I also like against Cincinnati. But Kirk Cousins had 425 yards and 4 touchdowns in a tie versus Green Bay in week 2. And I just don't see a reason why this would be any different. 425 yards is a huge thing. 4 touchdowns is a huge thing. But he just had a bad week last week. This is Kirk Cousins. This is the Vikings. This is a beautiful game this week, guys. You want people in games like this.
And you know who else is in that game?
Who?
Do you know who? And I think we all know. A bad man.
A bad man.
Aaron Rodgers at 5,800 big ones.
That's absurd. That's a great pick for Aaron Rodgers because
Hold on.
Holding. Wait a minute.
Aaron Rodgers is a great play this week, guys. Play Aaron Rodgers. But at 5,700, you can get Lamar Jackson versus the 31st ranked run defense in the NFL this week. The man had more carries than Melvin Gordon,
Leonard Fournette, I believe.
Leonard Fournette, all of the elite. He was, I believe, second in carries last week.
27.
It is, for whatever it's worth, because that's a statistic that's somewhat misleading. Defending it's not any easier, for whatever it's worth. Defending a quarterback running is a completely different process than defending a back. So saying a team has the 31st rush defense doesn't exactly mean it's good or bad.
That's worse.
For
It's
Lamar
harder.
Ja- well,
It's
I mean-
harder. You're playing 11 on 11 and not 10 on 11. Because you got to think when a quarterback is dropping back, it's 10 on 11.
Yeah, well, of course it's harder. It's just Lamar Jackson's interesting because I don't exactly look at him as a quarterback much.
He's a running back.
Yeah, but that's interesting because matchups and analytics, especially this early on in his tenure, barely matter. You just take him. A quarterback has the ability to carry the ball 20-something times and get over 100 yards. I mean, that's not bad to have there if he's going to throw for maybe 180 and a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's a big-time quarterback. He doesn't have to have a big Kirk Cousins games to do it because Kirk Cousins, I'll tell you, when he runs for 25 yards, that's the next thing. He has 25 carries.
Kirk Cousins used to have like 40-yard games when he was on the Redskins. But
Well, the thing about Lamar Jackson,
they block really well.
The thing about Lamar Jackson this week is that he's also going for 5,700, which is lower than average for a QB against the Raiders. So if he's going to be running as much as he did last week, he might get 2 rushing touchdowns. He might even throw for touchdowns.
And you know what? When you get 2 rushing touchdowns, that's the equivalent of 3 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, for passing touchdowns in DFS, you get 4, rushing 6. So, in case you didn't know that.
Even cheaper than Lamar Jackson is Baker Mayfield at Cincinnati. Guys, the Bengals are so bad.
What are you talking about? They just brought in the assistant to the assistant head coach.
The assistant to the assistant head coach. Oh, no.
They have Dwight Schrute coaching Dalton over there. This is like when Andy became the manager.
They were 11-5 with Andy as the manager.
Well, that's good. And Andy, when was that? When was that now? And they're just terrible. They're the worst 5-5 team in the league. They've lost 3 of the last 4, and the only reason they didn't lose 4 of 4 is because they managed to freaking just escape Tampa Bay with a victory after they allowed 34 points. The Browns are trending upward. The Bengals are allowing over 300 yards per game to quarterbacks. Baker actually has 4 straight weeks. 4 straight weeks where he's had 2+ touchdowns, and he took advantage of that good Kansas City matchup. I like Baker Mayfield this week against Cincinnati.
I do like Baker Mayfield. I think the bye week's going to help them too.
Yeah.
A lot of times these rookies, man, you got to think how fast their life's moving. These guys, I don't know how old Baker Mayfield is off the top of my head.
He's young.
It doesn't matter.
4?
Yeah.
3?
It doesn't matter how young he is. This is a young man. This is no different than you or I. Being an NFL quarterback right now, how fast is life moving for this dude, the millionaire first overall pick of the draft?
Yeah.
This guy just got a week vacation. He's going to come out of that week vacation a different man, and I think that's going to be positive for football. But I'm going to go back to the Baltimore Raven Oakland Raider game because I want to transition to the running backs that I really like.
Go for it.
Gus Edwards.
Oh man, let me tell you.
I'm gonna leave my comments. I'm gonna let you guys talk about Gus Edwards.
I'm just gonna say one thing. Gus Edwards, I think he did great last week. I don't think he's going to perform as well as he did last week.
Even versus Oakland.
I don't believe it. If they're just going to let Lamar Jackson keep running the ball, especially, like again, last week, 27 rushes himself, not even his backs. I don't think his entire backfield got 27 rushes that entire game.
Gus Edwards got 17 and he had over 100 yards, which is a much more efficient day than Lamar Jackson, number 1. Number 2.
That's the next thing.
Gus Edwards, this is a little thing about the Ravens that they've been probably stashing for weeks now. Months even. Since training camp even probably. This undrafted free agent running back, Gus Edwards, has literally only been on the field prior to last week only when Lamar Jackson was on the field. Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson have a special chemistry that I think is going to be highlighted throughout the weeks going forward. Gus Edwards only became relevant because of Lamar Jackson. And that was a coach's decision. That wasn't Alec Collins, we don't believe in you. This is Gus Edwards is Lamar Jackson's boy.
Mm-hmm.
If Lamar Jackson's going to start versus the worst team in the NFL right now, I'm riding Gus Edwards this week.
I mean, listen, at 4,400, you can't go wrong with him. He's a great budget pick considering that some of the running backs on DraftKings can get up to 9,000, 10,000, which is a very considerable amount of the budget that you would need to put to.
Well, Melvin Gordon's 86, and I really like that. But
that's great. Against the Cardinals, that's going to be crazy. I think, naturally, all the studs, from Joe Mixon, James Conner, CMC, all of them are going to have great. CMC, I don't know. He's going up against the Seattle. I don't know if he's going to.
CMC is matchup proof. I've learned that one.
He's CMC. He'll be fine. But I'm saying all the studs are going to be great. My favorite stud for his budget, going up against Buffalo, I have him in the league. 2nd round draft pick, Leonard Fournette, 6,700 against the Bills.
He is my flex this week in DraftKings.
3 rushing touchdowns. This guy's going to get this week.
Woo.
3.
Well, I'll tell you, the Bills, I understand it's the Bills, and teams their offense is so inept that it hurts their defense, but their defense has tried their best. And that's
remarkable because their defense isn't bad.
Their defense is actually quite good. In fact, if they had an offense to go with and defend them, they'd actually look like one of the better defenses in the league, most likely. They still kind of are. It's just no one gives them the respect because they're the Bills.
That defense last year nearly knocked off a team that went to the AFC Championship game. They just decided to rebuild a quarterback. Josh Allen is starting this week, I believe. So, that is something worth noting.
Well, I'll tell you what, to lend to the Leonard Fournette point, I'll tell you what they're not going to be able to do against the Bills, and that's throw. There's no way the Jaguars are able to throw the football in this game against the Bills.
When Blake Bortles,
Bortles is top 6. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's just how things have changed. Let's stick on the we're still going with the running backs. Nick Chubb, I'm just going to say this one again. The Bengals are terrible. They just suck. I don't know what you want me to tell you. They're allowing 120 rushing yards per game, and they're allowing over 5 yards per carry. They're one of 4 teams doing that, and if you add the decimal, it's second most in the league they're allowing per carry. Nick Chubb's been running the ball real well. He's been super efficient.
100%, man. And you just had that monster game before the bye week. You got to think, this guy has fresh legs. These NFL defenses have been playing 10 weeks in a league that does not help the defense whatsoever. These guys are tired. These guys have heavy legs. Nick Chubb is a nice play. I agree with you.
I just got to bring up one more running back, though. My initial draft, Kerryon Johnson, seventh round pick for my league. He's out next week. So Theoretic is your guy if you want to budget running back. He's $4,500, and I think he's going to be taking the majority of the snaps.
Yeah, well, I think Zach Zenner's involved as well, but the Bears are actually particularly bad against receiving backs this year. It's been one of the weaknesses of their defense, as is the weakness of a lot of great defenses, as that's the one thing you almost can't account for sometimes when you're locking everyone else down so good. So I love that this week against the Bears as well in PPR formats. Marlon Mack versus Miami. You guys could just go look for yourself. Check out what the running backs have done to Miami this year. It's pitiful for Miami, really. Again, the Jets, the only team that couldn't do it to Miami on the ground. Everyone. You have Kerryon Johnson ran for 150-something yards on, 17 carries. Lamar Miller over 130 on 18 carries. Joe Mixon hit just about 100 on him. The list goes on and on. Marlon Mack with this high-powered Colts offense, they're just getting started, that offense. The defense, who knows, but the offense is just getting started. And versus Miami, this is easy money with Marlon Mack this week. Easy money.
I would say with any of the Colts. If you had any of the Colts as your powerhouses that you wanted to work with this week, go for it. The offensive line hasn't let up a sack on Andrew Luck in 4 games now?
5 games?
Yeah, so if they keep this up, anyone on that team could potentially be a huge weapon.
Absolutely. It's definitely an offense to roll with and has been one of the better. The 5-5 record doesn't show how great the offense has been. And then David Johnson, I feel, is necessary to talk about at 7,300. Don't look now. David Johnson's getting real hot. They fired that offensive coordinator, and here they are. All of a sudden, David Johnson's starting to kind of come back to form. This might be the cheapest you get him for the rest of the season this week, as David Johnson might be about to have his late season push here.
Mm-hmm.
I would say David Johnson at 73. If you don't want to spend 8 something on a running back, you might get it at 73 for David Johnson.
He is going up against the Chargers, so that's going to be a very interesting matchup. But like you said, he's been hot. He might keep it up. Who knows?
I think one other running back to consider, you brought up Zach Zenner. Leonard Fournette, not Leonard Fournette, excuse me. LeGarrette Blount is not one to sleep on in the Detroit backfield right now. They paid him. They don't have a running back that can really run between the tackles. Zach Zenner is never really between the tackles back either.
Well, that's what he does. I like him better than LeGarrette Blount.
Really?
Given what Detroit does offensively, yes, because they need a guy that could do a little bit of both, and I think Zach Zenner is just a bit more capable as a receiver.
Fair.
As Blount. Maybe Blount has the opportunity for, I don't think he's going to get a lot of carries. I'm sure he has the touchdown opportunity as he has LeGarrette Blount.
Right.
And I have to respect that. But as far as carries, I think they'd rather go to Zenner. Matt Breida versus Tampa Bay, if we're going to keep going with this.
That is a nice one.
Buccaneers are the Buccaneers, and Matt Breida is a very big focal point of this 49ers offense. Offenses versus Tampa Bay have been money this season, so I would say just roll with Matt Breida and don't overthink that one. 5,700.
Peterson versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
If the Redskins are going to win this game,
That's
it's
huge.
going to be because of a balanced effort from Colt McCoy and AP. This is probably the biggest game of the Redskins seasons right now. It's early in the season. It's hard to say that, but you do not want to give up a season sweep to the Dallas Cowboys. You don't want to do that when you're first in the division.
They need this one.
Well,
They desperately need
yeah.
this. And Colt McCoy, I love Colt McCoy.
So
I
do I.
think Colt McCoy is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. and I think he gives them an excellent chance. I think he has Nick Foles potential, and I'm going to be straight up. If the Redskins give this man an opportunity, Colt McCoy is going to be real deal.
You would take Colt McCoy over your boy Josh McCown?
100%.
I would take Colt McCoy over Josh McCown. In fact, I think Colt McCoy right now, I think is throwing and trying out for the Jaguars next season.
Really?
100%.
He has Bortles.
He has the rest of the season to prove that he could be a starter. I think he has it, and quite frankly, I think Bortles has had too long to prove that he's a starter, as compared to Colt McCoy, who's had the opposite problem. I think if I were the Jaguars, I'd be watching the Washington Redskins very, very, very closely because you have a more talented team than they do. Let's see what Colt McCoy could do with them.
Yeah.
I would love to see him as a starter. I love seeing new faces.
Absolutely.
Any starters at the wide receiver position that you feel are worth noting for DraftKings?
Stephon Diggs, last
Stephon
3
Diggs
weeks.
is gold. He's
18
money.
targets, 11 targets, 15 targets. Had his best statistical output of the year versus Green Bay in week 2 rather, his first big game of the season.
Mhm.
I think he had something along the lines of like 9 receptions, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns. And again, I already told you that Kirk Cousins is going to go off this week. So
And Stephon Diggs going up for
Stephon Diggs,
7,600?
it doesn't happen without Stephon Diggs, and this is a shoo-in for me. I love Stephon Diggs.
He's going up for 7,600 against Green Bay, and they tied in week 2. They are going to be out for blood. These guys are going to want to rack up as much points as they can. They're going to throw the ball as far down the field as they can. Not every single play,
I
but
understand, yeah.
more often than they normally should. And let me tell you, Stephon Diggs more than proved it. Now, one of my personal picks that I want this year, or this for this week, and I'm not just saying this because I am a Packers fan, if Randall Cobb is still out this week, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think, is going to be an
screw him.
amazing pick. Stop. If
I
Cobb is
agree.
out,
I hate
if
him.
Cobb is out for 4,800, I think he's going to blow up more points than anyone else in that range of salary would cost.
How much was he?
4,800.
4,800? Okay, I'm going to do you one better.
Sure,
At
go for it.
5,100, Doug Baldwin versus the Carolina Panthers.
I'm
The
not
Carolina
sure about
Panthers have allowed to the slot receiver in the past 3 games Adam Humphries, Bruce Ellington, who I will get to later, and Juju Smith-Schuster, each of which had 11 points PPR, and Juju had a much better game than 11 points out of the slot. Doug Baldwin just came off a game where he got a touchdown, 5 receptions. Doug Baldwin might be back, folks. This is when the Seahawks are about to make that playoff push, man. Russell Wilson, the Seahawks, they rally around Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is 66 years old in a contract year.
Should have ran it.
Listen. That's water under the bridge.
That's clearly
Apparently
not
not.
water under the bridge. That's why they lost all their players.
Hey, listen, it doesn't matter.
The
defense
locker
is
room was
top.
never the same.
It doesn't matter.
It was never the
It
same.
doesn't matter about
It
that.
was never the same.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Their defense is still top 10. The Seattle Seahawks defense, regardless of the subtraction of Russell Wilson Russell Wilson, I want to say Richard Sherman. See the face of the Seahawks here. Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor not being there no more. Earl Thomas. I said all these guys not being there anymore, it hasn't mattered. The Seattle Seahawks defense, next man up, they are still churning out great performances week after week. And here's my point for why
I
this is
apologize.
relevant for. Excuse you. This is the reason why Doug Baldwin will be relevant for fantasy. When a team rallies around a coach, particularly one that's 66 years old, that's not interested in a rebuild, which Pete Carroll certainly is, in a contract year, these guys are going to play their hearts out. They're going to play with their jobs and their lives on the line for Pete Carroll this week.
And for themselves, this is a big game for their season.
And you know what? Doug Baldwin versus the Carolina Panthers? I'm calling 7 receptions,
Oh my.
Okay. No,
63
respectable.
yards, and 2, count them, 2 touchdowns.
That's absurd. I would say 1 at most.
2
I don't believe it.
touchdowns.
No.
2 touchdowns. The Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin is still alive in 2018.
I agree with you. 7 receptions on probably 11 or 12 targets. I don't know. I think 63 yards is a little short of it. I would say somewhere probably 85.
Okay.
But I only think 1 touchdown at most.
That's still a good game.
At most.
That's so amazing
That's
at
pretty good.
5,100.
51? That's amazing. That's a great pick. The thing about DFS, DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever you want to call it, is you need to learn how to use your budget. So if you can find this one guy,
Yeah,
that's
Jimmy. Learn how to use your budget.
I think I've done a pretty good job of that.
Well, you
Charles
have to,
Everett, folks, last week.
you have to average everybody at 55. That's the average price that you can spend across every position. Granted, your tight ends might be a little less, and your defense might be a little
The
less.
defense is guaranteed to be less.
Yeah, but if you can find 2 or 3 guys that are going to drop you 10 to 15 points, and they're going to be less than 5,000, you take them. Doesn't matter if you can't get that stud, if you can't get that James Conner, or you can't get the Joe Mixon, or whoever it might be. If you can take somebody like, hold on a second, how much is he again? Kenny Galladay, 6,400,
Oh, that's a 1,300 difference, man.
with Marvin Jones being out this week as well.
That is a good 6,400. It's a number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
Number 1 receiver, $6,400 against the Bears. That might seem a little bit intimidating at first. Kenny Galladay's got 2 touchdowns in him. If he's the number 1 receiver, I think Kenny Galladay and Theodore, those are going to be the guys.
These predictions of 2 touchdowns, let's not get ahead of ourselves with the
It is
2
the
touchdown
Bears.
predictions. How about 6 touchdowns this week for
From-
Mike Evans versus the
Oh,
San
stop
Francisco
Okay.
49ers?
All right.
You're fake news.
Listen, watch when it happens. Not 6 touchdowns. He's going to have a lot of targets this week, though.
Are you saying that Deshaun Jackson won't have 4?
Deshaun, they're going to at least score 14 touchdowns in this game, John.
At least.
Mike Evans versus San Francisco at
James Winston's going
77
to run in for 5.
is a real good play. I like guys when you have Stephon Diggs and Mike Evans like this, when they're like $1,000 cheaper than the guys that are guaranteed to do it, like Michael Thomas or something like that. I think you essentially have the same thing this week in Mike Evans versus San Francisco. I don't think Tampa Bay is good enough to just beat San Francisco into the ground in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And neither of them are good enough to stop each other. I think there's going to be a lot of targets for Evans this week. I think it's 7,700. You might have the best receiver of the week for all you know.
Possibly.
With Jameis Winston back
Possibly.
as a starter, his value just went up. Djax just went down. So I'm with you on that one. Another receiver that I am really looking forward to is he's been performing all season long, Juju. He's been great. He's consistently been cheaper than AB, and he's put around not exactly the same numbers, very similar though. For a salary difference of $1,200 being at 75 instead of 87, I'll take those 3 points loss if I can use that budget somewhere else. If I could get in a great flex, or if I could do a Zach Ertz or something like that, I'll take it.
Why do Zach Ertz when you could do Cameron Brate? We were just talking about this Jameis Winston thing here. Cameron Brate with Jameis Winston over the course of his career is actually like one of the better tight ends in football.
Being a new
O.J.
starter-
Howard just went on the IR,
Mhm.
and here comes Cameron Brate. I wouldn't look anywhere else at 3,600. This is listen. If you lose on this one, you lost for the right
He's
reasons.
going to be a great budget pick this week.
Yeah,
It's going to be amazing.
I agree.
I would
My
say
thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers
Mhm.
is their quarterback is too eccentric
which one?
to trust. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't trust either of them, really. However, Cameron Brate with Jameis Winston has unbelievable chemistry. Ryan Fitzpatrick with tight ends has unbelievable chemistry. You look throughout his career, and, like, the Jets use Quincy Enunwa a lot like a tight end, and Quincy Enunwa had one of his best years with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Mhm.
You look back at his time with the Bills, he featured the tight end quite a bit. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a smart quarterback. He knows when to take the check downs. He knows when to take the short to intermediate
Sometimes
routes.
he knows.
I know.
Other
This is
times he
why
forgets.
he throws 3 interceptions.
Against the Giants.
He's a god.
Yes.
Absolute
In
legend.
his own right.
Oh, he's a legend. I don't even care. but like, this is the thing with them. I feel like they use their quarterbacks like relief pitchers in baseball. If one of them doesn't work for the first half, they just pull the other one. The other one doesn't. You don't have film on the other guy. because
Yeah,
he
but
gets
that's
pulled.
not an
Because they're both
acceptable.
fighting.
It's not an acceptable strategy in football.
I'll tell you what, man. Every time they have gone to the relief quarterback with Winston and Fitzpatrick, looking back the past couple weeks, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played 2 weeks ago, I want to say it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, they switched from Fitzpatrick. They switched from Winston to Fitzpatrick, and Fitzpatrick led 3 unanswered touchdown drives. To almost beat. I can't remember the team they played. Who was it? 2-3 weeks ago. The Giants. I'm trying to think of who they played. Because I remember I was watching the game of Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm gonna look this up while.
Hit us up with some free wings. Got you.
That'd be very nice. Buffalo Wild Wings advertising with Run the Gauntlet. Hit
That'd
us
be
up.
great.
Whoa.
On the other side of the field, though, we're going to talk about the receiving game, not so much the passing game, though. San Francisco has George Kittle. Granted, very expensive, $6,200. One of the top tight ends. going up against Tampa Bay. That's nonsense. It's gonna be great.
It's nonsense.
He's gonna have possibly, I don't know what the season high is for tight ends yards received this year. I would like to say it's somewhere around 120, 130. George Kittle might do that. He just might. It's Tampa Bay. Their defense is shot. The only reason that they have a decent record is because Ryan Fitzpatrick.
They don't even have a decent record.
That's the problem.
They have a couple wins.
They started off with one.
They do.
But Ryan Fitzpatrick started off as a stud. Now as a bum. They put in Jameis. Jameis was a bum. They put in Fitzpatrick. The Tampa Bay offense as a whole is just going to be so inconsistent. I wouldn't put my money on pretty much any of them at this point. I don't think that I can trust that offense.
The only one I trust is Mike Evans. I had Cameron Brate for a tight end position because of the positional value.
Cameron Brate this week for his value. Possibly the next few weeks if you're desperate for a tight end.
Particularly,
he's great for budget. He's great for budget, and he might just go off.
Particularly in season long. Cameron Brate holds so much more value in season long fantasy football than he does in daily fantasy football.
Yes.
If you were in a 12-man league and you're really deep at tight ends and you're looking at guys like CJ Uzoma and other players in the waiver wire that, quite frankly, really should not start for you.
Like Antonio Gates?
Yeah. We're talking about either old men, extra offensive linemen, or Cameron Brate. You take Cameron Brate every time for season-long fantasy football.
I agree.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, I'd expect him to launch himself right into top 7 tight ends, top 8 tight ends starting.
Really?
Yeah, it's just...
Give it 2 weeks? 2 or 3 weeks?
It'll probably start this week. I'm going to be 100%.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a
It's
delay.
Jameis Winston and Cameron Brate have a supreme chemistry. He was still able to get him the ball. O.J. Howard, just supreme talent. It's unfortunate for Cameron Brate that O.J. Howard's actually one of the more talented tight ends in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And Brate got caught behind that, but it does not mean he can't play, and it does not mean they don't have chemistry anymore. He's going to come in and be just fine.
So I would say with Cameron Brate, I give it about 6 targets, 4 receptions, around 50, 60 yards.
Ooh,
Possibly a touchdown. We don't know.
that'd be impressive.
That's all you need at tight end, my
That'd be
friend.
great, and especially for that value. You want to look at value per point. If you pick somebody that's going to cost you $8,000 and they're only going to give you 10, as opposed to somebody that's going to cost you $4,000 and give you 9, you take that person. So Cameron Brate just might be that guy for you this week.
Do we believe in revenge games, guys?
I
I've
would
been
like to
talking
think
about
so.
revenge games for months, bro.
I would like to think so.
So do I. All right, well then how about Emmanuel Sanders versus the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Man.
At 5,500, you may have a big Emmanuel Sanders game. Here's the thing with a guy like Emmanuel Sanders is that the reason he's 5,500 isn't because he doesn't have upside. It's because we know the floor on a given week with Emmanuel Sanders. He's just,
It's too late.
Particularly in recent weeks.
yeah, he's just like, he's like romaine lettuce. You know what I'm saying? You just stay away sometimes.
God.
Well, apparently now you stay away all the time, but
Now you stay away all the time, but this week I'm going to tell you
I can't believe you just did that.
he's going to be your romaine lettuce substitute. He's going to be your spinach this week, guys. He's going to be. That's all I could think of.
He's going to turn you into Popeye.
see, Emmanuel Sanders is the cranberries.
He's the
Cranberry
ham.
sauce.
Yes, he's the cranberry sauce.
What does that mean?
What I mean by that is, you always find a reason to get the cranberry sauce. You always look at the cranberry sauce and you're like, oh man, whoever made that really put a lot of time and effort into that cranberry sauce,
Never,
right?
I have never.
It looks really good, that cranberry sauce.
I'm just going to go
When
with
you
all
have
the
that
viewers that are
cranberry
listening.
sauce, when you have said cranberry sauce isn't what you're looking for. You're looking for that turkey leg, man. You're looking for that stuffing. You want that stuff that's right up the turkey's ass that you pull out and it's all greasy and fantastic, right?
All I'm going to
That's
say,
what you want.
James, viewers don't think they got that analogy.
I'll be
I
honest.
sure didn't.
You lost me when you said you marvel at the cranberry sauce.
But you see, the cranberry sauce, let me explain the analogy.
You just did.
The cranberry sauce, you look at it and you're like, this is pretty good.
You just explained.
And you
it.
always find a reason to get it. But then you don't appreciate it. And that's Emmanuel Sanders and his floor.
You know who's cranberry sauce this week? Josh Gordon. So he's 6,400. Now the second target for the GOAT, Tom Brady. The GOAT. 6,400, 12.6 points per average on his games all season long. That's with the Browns. And he's going up against the Jets, who are 8th for their passing defense. Or, I'm sorry, 8th for yards allowed for the passing defense.
Mhm.
So, Julian Edelman, $7,000. Josh Gordon, 6,400. I have him in the year-long league.
So you
I'll take him
tend
DFS.
to take the budget pick essentially.
I tend to take the budget pick because my way of making my draft is I take my stud from each position and I draft them first. So I get one stud running back, one stud wide receiver, and then I tend to pick my tight end and my defense because they are, generally speaking, lower than the average for your salary. And then you have a base idea of around what you can work with. So to give you an example, this week Saquon Barkley is 9,100 going up against the Eagles. And granted, he's very expensive.
But he is Saquon Barkley.
He's Saquon Barkley. He's going to perform. But that eats your budget so much. Knowing that he's going to perform, he's going to have that higher salary cap. It's going to suck. Now, on average, instead of having $6,000 per person, you're going to have 5. So now your Amari Cooper just turned into a John Brown or a Christian Kirk.
Yeah, and the thing with that also is that those points, like the points that Barkley's going to get, while the odds that he hits them are higher than everyone else, just about every single week there's someone that's the points are there at guys that are way cheaper. There's not a lack of guys at 6,000, 5,000 that are going to have great games every week.
3,800.
Who would be going for 3,800?
There's a lack, but it's not non-existent.
We're going to stay in the same game, guys. We're going to talk about this Eagles-Giants game real quick. Josh Adams. The undrafted fan favorite from the city of brotherly love, man. The Philadelphia Eagles' current starting running back, Mr. Josh Adams, at 3,800.
How many
has the
carries?
potential.
How many carries do we think he's getting?
I'm going to say he's going to get double-digit touches.
Not even.
He could, but like double digit, like 11.
No, like
12.
13 to 16. I think he's going to establish himself as the lead man in that offense over Corey Clement. Okay, guys, so I think we've pretty much covered everything. I think we've talked about a lot through the past 40 minutes. Thank you for staying with us, especially on a holiday weekend, guys. Thank you for taking the time away from your families to be with us. I really appreciate that. So, to make this short and sweet for you guys, we're going to introduce the lightning round to the Run the Gauntlet Fantasy Football Podcast, where we are going to discuss... We're going to go around the table, the three of us, and we're going to discuss one budget player, which is below average price, at every position. Me, Justin, and John are each going to give one gentleman. And that singular gentleman for every position is what this lightning round's all about. This is the guy you play to give yourself the extra money to buy the Saquon Barkley and Melvin Gordon. So I'm going to start this off. And at quarterback, my budget pick is Lamar Jackson at 5,700, or, you know what? Lamar Jackson. I'm going to stick with one guy. I was going to say Rodgers, but I'm going to stick with Lamar Jackson.
You can't go wrong with Rodgers at 5,800, but if you want a real budget pick, Chase Daniel versus the Lions. It's going to be great.
Okay.
A budget pick at quarterback. I wasn't prepared for that, guys. I was not prepared for that one at all. How about Andy Dalton versus the Browns? I know
5,300,
the
perfect.
Bengals are garbage, but he's 5,300, so we'll go with it. He's less than Nick Mullins, for God's sake.
I picked him up.
Okay.
He's going to do good.
At the running back position, I am going to go with Mr. Isaiah Crowell versus the New England Patriots.
Oh, I can say so many things about that. I'm going to say budget pick. He was the hot topic last week when he played. He might just do it again. Gus Edwards, 4,400.
Guys, LeSean McCoy is 4,200. Other than Peyton Barber, which I don't even think counts, he is the least expensive starting running back. LeSean McCoy. That is all. I just try
That's
it.
all you have to
Go
say.
for
That's
it.
all you have to say.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go right to the wide receiver position. DJ Moore versus Seattle Seahawks. DJ Moore just had an absolute career best game last week.
That was amazing, by the way.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
Incredible. And the Seattle Seahawks have allowed at least 8 PPR points in 3 of their last 4 weeks. And DJ Moore is a first-round draft pick. He's arguably the most talented wide receiver on the Carolina Panthers. And I think this week, he has the potential versus the Seattle Seahawks to really go off.
That'd be awesome. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, though. Dante Moncrief versus the Bills, 4,400. I think he's going to have another week. Just got a feeling.
Dante Moncrief's the worst player in the NFL. Minus
Blake Bortles.
Yeah, minus his quarterback, exactly. Revenge, guys. Michael Crabtree versus the Oakland Raiders at 4,600. I love it.
That's going to be good.
Good for you, sir.
Raiders
I didn't
could-
even catch that. Good
The
for
Raiders
you.
could
That's a very
really
good one.
use Michael Crabtree right now. I have a feeling he's going to remind them. He's not a lost piece in the offense. He's still involved. Perhaps he just breaks out.
Honorable mention, Bruce Ellington versus the Bears. Last week he had 9 targets. No one's talking about it. Going straight to the tight end position. Jack Doyle versus the Miami Dolphins.
What's he costing this week?
Jack Doyle, it's fine. It's fine. Another pause.
It's 41. He costs more than Eric Ebron.
At 4,000, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to stick with Cameron Braid. I said there's no need to look anywhere else at 3,600. You can't get a value like that.
Cameron Brate, yeah, I agree. You can't go wrong. 3,600, brand new starting QB, tight end with Jameis Winston back at start. Looks like a good formula to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't beat that.
No.
I think defensively, switching over to the defenses.
Texans, $3,000. Titans, there you go. There's
like-
your defense.
Guys, call me blasphemous here.
You are blasphemous.
You're going to say something stupid like the Cowboys.
No, the Cowboys are actually a very good
I'm
defense.
aware.
That's very stupid that you would even call that stupid. But
True.
to be even stupider, the Oakland Raiders at a cost of $2,000
Get outta
versus a
here.
rookie quarterback in his second start,
Get out of here.
that is a decent option. At $2,000 at a minimal cost, literally the lowest cost of all costs, you could have a
$2,000.
defense versus a rookie quarterback.
So now you told me before, sorry to cut the rapid fire, you told me before I'm putting you on the spot. You
Here we
told
go.
all of us
Here we go.
that you should be starting Lamar Jackson this week.
That does not mean Lamar Jackson will not throw an interception or two. That does not mean Lamar Jackson will not hold the ball and get sacked once or twice. Lamar Jackson can still very easily have 250 all-purpose yards rushing and passing, as well as a couple 6-point touchdowns.
Here's the problem with defenses in DFS is that they get points for sacks, interceptions, pick sixes, whatever you want to call it, right? Are the Raiders going to do that? That's why they're 2,000. That's just my input on that.
Hey, guys, you play offensive players versus the Buccaneers, and you play defenses
And you
versus
win.
Blake Bortles. So the Bills, one of the better defenses in the NFL, 2,700. They're versing Blake Bortles this week. Take the Bills.
That's pretty good. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're looking at, 40-some-odd minutes here on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, guys, seriously, that is more than... If you have stayed with us this long on a holiday, like,
You are beautiful people.
seriously, guys, I want to say one thing.
Oh,
We are incredibly grateful here in the spirit of being grateful, in the spirit of Thanksgiving. We are so incredibly grateful that you have stuck with us through our leave of absence the past couple of weeks, and that you are tuning in on a day that really everyone should be with their families and listening to us. We consider you all a part of our family, and thank you so much for
I
making us a
consider
part
you
of your
family
day.
too, Jimmy.
My man, John. Let's go.
I do appreciate anyone listening, but probably wouldn't lend you money like I would a family member. In fact, I prefer to take your money.
That's why you got to join our DraftKings tournament. You got to donate to the Run the Golden cause.
It's going to be $2 to $5 buying. We're going to change it up every week. Follow the page. Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll post it.
All right, this is about the moment where we say our names. I'm Justin Alfiero
I'm Jimmy LeBeau.
I am John Riveri.
for the first time.
Yes.
But not for the first time. This is Run the Gauntlet's Fantasy Football Podcast. We are done. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.